Hello guys and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be making another empire, and that country is Mexico. So let's go and begin with them declaring war on Belize. Mexican troops quickly push into the north, and honestly I'm sorry Belize, but you do not stand a chance. Mexico may not be the strongest countries, but they're definitely not the weakest, and they can definitely beat you. With that, they move on to declaring war to Guatemala, and once again this isn't going to be too difficult. They start some invasion in the north, but push along the coast to capture Guatemala City. This goes successfully, and after they push across the entire border and capture both coastlines, Guatemala surrenders. After that, it's going to be a pretty simple campaign of pushing down to Central America and then eventually into the Caribbean. And I should also go ahead and mention that this is an unrealistic scenario. Do not go around telling me that this would never happen in real life. I know, it's just theoretical to see what would happen if Mexico started to make an empire. Next up is El Salvador. Oh, look at that, they're dead. Honduras. Yeah, these countries not doing great. Tegucigalpa, something like that. Well, it's captured. Nicaragua, Managua, quickly captured once again. And yeah, it's not looking great for any Central American nations. And at this point, they could probably do this in real life if they really wanted to. Most people would probably condemn this, but I don't think anyone cares enough about these countries to do it. But these next few are going to be a bit less realistic, as of course Costa Rica is being guaranteed by the US. Same with Panama. We're just going to be ignoring that and saying that there are no alliances and that relations are nearly completely cut off in this video to allow Mexico to continue to expand. With that, Costa Rica actually doesn't have a standing army. So yeah, they fall quickly. As for Panama, it's a tiny bit slower, but eventually they capitulate as well with the fall of Panama City. This also causes a lot of international outrage as Mexico blocks off the Panama Canal and now starts, well, before charging, yes, military, let's just say they change it to accommodate themselves, and you should be able to make it out from there. That Mexico is already expanding to a pretty powerful country, not that they already weren't. Population-wise, honestly, the country's doing pretty well. GDP per capita, we don't talk about that, but it's only going to get better as they go ahead and annex Jamaica, make a landing on Haiti, and the island of Hispaniola really doesn't stand a chance here, as the Dominican Republic is up next. And we're breezing through these countries, as honestly, most of them probably wouldn't even fight Mexico. They are not by any means the strongest country and would be easily beaten. They also go for a lot of these islands, although significantly they ignore Puerto Rico, fearing US intervention, which would most likely happen. But as for the rest of these random islands, they're all Mexican now. Same thing with the Bahamas, and eventually Cuba's gonna go to war as well. As once again, in real life, they'd most likely at least get support from Russia. Not here. Here it's just Mexico versus Cuba 1v1, which in real life they would already win. Navy isn't the best, but it's better than Cuba's. Here it's just going to be even faster. They make multiple landings on Cuba, capture Havana, and yeah, none of these countries can really fight it. Oh, it's glitched. Okay. Yeah, Mexico just went around, captured all of Central America and most of the Caribbean, making them a pretty influential country in the world. Too many countries to count the population, but I can definitely tell you it's expanded. They probably are sharing influence with even some European nations. Yeah, this is a lot of land, a lot of population. Okay, economy. Wow, yeah. Well, let's go and start the next war, which is going to be on Colombia, but this is going to be where they run into their first problem, as South America saw Mexico coming and made an alliance against them. This alliance includes Peru, Bolivia, Argentina, as soon as I can color them in, and definitely Mexico's hardest challenge yet. So far they've gone up against much weaker nations. But they're not going to be alone for all of it, although they are going to be alone in the beginning. As they begin to push into Colombia, they were expecting this, and although there is some extra resistance from the help that Colombia is getting, here it's still pretty early in the war, and a lot of blue team troops aren't here yet to help out Colombia. Mexico is pushed back around the coast, though, as the Colombian military is semi-formidable, and the Mexicans aren't going to have that easy of a time pushing in. We then see their ally join in, though. They're actually going to get multiple allies here, one being Brazil and the other being Chile. Once again, unrealistic. We're giving Mexico advantages here. But we do see this be a massive change, like just very helpful for Mexico. And both Argentina and Bolivia, who did not see this coming, had most of their troops in Colombia or on their way, which leads to Chile and Brazil being able to meet up, capturing all of Bolivia. And yes, I know, mountains. Somebody told me to pay more attention to those, so I will. Chile and Brazil start snaking around the coast to try and capture Lima, although it isn't going to be the easiest thing as the blue team still has some strength, and Argentina begins to push back with a lot of its military, as it had not sent nearly as much to Colombia as Bolivia had. And they are able to hold off both Brazil and Chile. They even begin their own little invasion into southern Chile. Not very well defended, but Argentina and its people see this as a massive morale boost. With this though, Argentina basically decides, hey, there is no way we win this. Let's just get as much land as we can, as fast as we can, so we can at least get something out of this war. So they continue to push up into Chile, capturing a majority of the country. And yeah, Chile falls. That's, yeah. What else am I supposed to say? They begin to push back into Bolivia and Peru, although Brazilian troops eventually come back and start to meet up with the Argentine army. Meanwhile, up here in the north, Mexico's had a much easier time pushing into Colombia, as alone Colombia cannot stand up to Mexico. And eventually, although it is in the rainforest, Mexico and Brazil meet up so they can start to trade and help each other out. Colombia quickly falls as full Argentine and most Peruvian and Bolivian troops have left the area to protect their own country, and this is going to go fine for them. As, yeah, Brazil really sees no point in continuing this war. There really is no point. The red team is obviously victorious here, but the blue team did manage to capture Chile. So although Brazil and Mexico could pretty easily push back into the blue team and capitulate all three countries, along with recapturing Chile, they see no point. They don't really care if Chile lives or dies, and they just see it as a good way to get land without having any more deaths. So yeah, who would have guessed in war, most people don't want their people to die. With that, let's go ahead and draw in these new borders, which is going to be Mexico annexing about half of Colombia, and the other half being given over to Brazil. We also see the divide up of Venezuela, as nobody comes to their aid, and yeah, that just leads to their complete and utter death. We also see Peru losing a good amount of land, although it's mostly in the Amazon rainforest, so is it really that bad? No, not really. A majority of their important land, I guess I should say, is on the other side of the Andes Mountains, and Brazil and Colombia were not able to get there, which means they still have a lot of their population, a lot of their economy. Although the situation there's only worsening, so at this point there will probably be some political tension in the country. So this is way too straight to be a border. Let's fix it. First things first, let's just go and color in the entire blue team red. Just makes more sense. So that now we can actually draw in the borders correctly. So yeah, Brazil's definitely going to take a good amount from Peru here, but it's nothing too devastating. The country still exists and it's still doing fine. It also gets a new pro-Mexican and pro-Brazilian government, so nothing too major here. We also see Bolivia getting their coastline back. Was that a worth it trade for them? Probably not, but they're doing fine is the point. And Argentina just annexes the rest of Chile. We actually see the Argentine and Brazilian borders not changing, as honestly the two countries really see no point in doing so. Brazil already got a ton of land, so their government's happy, and so did Argentina, so their government's happy. Two people who aren't happy are Bolivia got a coastline, they're happy. Colombia's definitely not happy. They don't exist anymore though, so what say do they have? Their people are obviously going to rise up in revolt, and this is going to be incredibly difficult, if not utterly impossible, to hold down. Let's just go ahead and ignore that because we're giving Mexico the advantage here. And that's going to mean no rebellions, no extra troops that have to stay there, no extra supply usage, nothing like that. Because it's going to make it easier for Mexico, and that's what we want. We also see them annexing all of Ecuador, bit of a smaller and weaker country. No point in fighting. They've seen what Mexico is willing to do, and they don't want to have their people die. Anyways, they both speak Spanish, so it wouldn't be too bad. Actually, yeah, let's have Bolivia and Peru unite. They should do fine together, and both countries can really use that. Except for Argentina, who only gained land. They were on the losing side, still only gained land. Good job, Argentina. You managed to get yourself a very nice peace treaty. Alright, let's finish drawing in these borders. Then we can move on to the final war of this video, which I'm guessing you all already know what it's going to be. Alright, almost all the borders done by now. But yeah, these still aren't the exact same one, but 2 is way too small, so I'd rather go a bit too big than way too small on the borders. Alright, there we go. So yeah, now Mexico's a very powerful country. Honestly, are they stronger than Brazil? Yeah, is the question here. No, Brazil's still a bit stronger, but not by a lot, not by a lot. Not by a lot. Mexico's definitely closing the gap. But they're actually going to need Brazil's help for this next war, as they have one more place they can go. Up. Up. That's a bit anticlimactic. There we go. Up. So yeah, Mexico's final war is going to be against the USA. And honestly, even with all this new land and any buffs that I give them, let's be honest, the USA would still beat them. They'd get help from Europe, Canada would most likely join in, Mexico would get destroyed here. Even if Brazil helped them, Mexico would still win. We're gonna have to assume quite a few things here to make Mexico win. They're a very powerful country at this point, but the USA is number 1, and they're not very easy to take down. So yeah, this is what it looks like right now. Why not call in some allies? So of course they call in Brazil, probably their closest ally, which you wouldn't expect. You'd expect them to be allied to like Argentina, but not. But no, it's Brazil. But you know who else is going to join in? This new Andes Confederation, and they were puppeted by the Brazilians and Mexicans, so why not? The Argentinians sit it out, but they may be joining in later. We also see, of course, Puerto Rico getting involved. That's gone. And then, of course, Hawaii. Alright, let's start this war with a few assumptions, and that is this. Civil war breaking out. This is quite a while in the future, so these aren't the exact borders present day. These are actually not even close, but this is what it's going to look like for now. Actually, no, let's change this to that. A rebellion in the United States. Republicans, Democrats, it only got worse. And in this scenario, the worst broke out into all-out civil war, and Mexico took advantage of that. Mexican troops instantly begin to flood into southern USA. And honestly, California is not going to last long here, as the entire bit of the USA falls, along with Washington. We see the eastern parts of the US attempt to push back, taking New Orleans and some parts of Minnesota. But it's not going to be enough, as the Mexican army here normally wouldn't outclass the US's, but together with the Brazilians and Andes Confederation, it's very close. Then combine that with this rebellion that took out nearly half the US's army and its two most powerful states, Mexico's going to win this. New Orleans is recaptured along with Florida, and the push up north has begun. This isn't before the spirit towards Chicago goes well, and all of Minnesota falls. They continue to push into Wisconsin and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and although the USA attempts to push back and makes a good amount of progress, even recapturing Chicago, it is not enough, as every single time there's a bit of a back and forth, but in the end, every single time, the red team is going to be gaining that tiny bit of land, which is eventually going to make them win. So yeah, huge stalemate, push back, send all you have, push back, massive stalemates, push back, send all you have, massive stalemate. This is how it's going to be going until DC is captured. And with that, there's not much steam left in the US. Detroit and Michigan is captured, Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania, Maryland falls, New Jersey City and the state in its entirety, Buffalo and New York City, and Boston falls, leading to the collapse of the Union. There we go. The war's over. Mexico's won. Let's go and draw them in their new borders, which are going to be even larger than the old Mexican Empire used to have. As why not? When you win a war, you get to take the land you want. And Mexico's going to take full advantage of that. Maybe if the United States had surrendered sooner, they would have left them some land, but no. The US fought until the end, and Mexico doesn't like that. So yeah, they're going to take a good portion of the country. Alaska, probably going to be given to Canada or Russia if they want to make an alliance with them. Depends on what path Mexico would take here. But the point is, bunch of land was just annexed. USA, no longer the strongest country, that title. Would Mexico be strong enough to fill in that title? Here, let's see. What states did Mexico take just now, okay? Let's look at this reasonably. Nope, I need that. What states did Mexico take? They, of course, took California and Texas, the two strongest states in the United States. They took Louisiana, they took Mississippi, they took Alabama, Washington, Oregon, a lot of central states like Utah. They took New Mexico and Arizona. Would that be enough to make them the most powerful country on earth? Or would that title go to Russia or China, which honestly, I know that on like any military standing, it says that Russia is stronger, but China would beat Russia. Let's be honest here. Yeah. Extremely powerful Mexico here. Probably, yeah, strongest country in the world. Has full control over Latin America and over the United States. This is also seen with their influence in Brazil and in the Andes Confederation, along with a growing influence in Argentina, who has voted in a new president, as yes, they did go back to being democratic. They also annexed Puerto Rico, and with that, I think this new Mexican empire is done. The new strongest country in the world, with a lot of influence over the Americas and the Pacific. I do hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.